A Quirkless Guide to Winning the UA Sports Festival. A Boku no Hero fan fiction written by Leahistyping. Chapter 2. Meet ya at the finish line. The bright stage lights blinded Izuku as he ran into the UA stadium, his eardrums almost bursting from the loud cheers of the audience. It was an experience, one he didn't think he would ever get used to over the next 2 years. 2 years at UA! No, wait, focus! He needed to be on top of his game if he wanted any chance of pushing Shinzo into the finale. That was his only goal for the day. Well, besides getting to observe a crap ton of unique quirks. The crowd continued to roar as the remaining general studies classes filled into the large field. His pulse was steadily starting to increase, and he knew it was only a matter of time until his craving for adrenaline kicked in. Shinzo walked up from behind him and casually leaned his arm on Izuku's shoulder. "It's way bigger than I thought it was, huh?" Shinzo mumbled, not really speaking to anyone specifically. "It is! I never thought I would get to see it in person, let alone participate in it," Izuku replied, taking a deep breath. He needed to clear his mind and let his anxieties he's had slip off his tensed shoulders. "Just pretend you're out on patrol. Find the confidence to do as well." As the remaining classes finally entered the stadium, they all gathered around Midnight, who was standing confidently with her hand and whip on her hip. From the speakers above, Izuku heard the familiar voice of his homeroom teacher, yelling into a microphone. "What's up, everybody? How are y'all doing today? I hope you're pumped up for this year's sport festival!" "Present Mike!" screamed his voice, echoing around the arena. The crowd, along with a generous number of students, cheered in response. Everyone was hyped, that much was obvious, though Izuku could use that to his advantage. Unfortunately for the Hero Course students, he was certain that they didn't take outside forces into account for this event. They might have fought against a group of villains, but apart from the bosses, they were all DC level at best. Most students, if not all, were likely inexperienced in battle strategy and hand-to-hand combat, and in Izuku's case, that where he excelled. He was a realistic person innately, and he was fully aware of his role in society. He would never be able to take them down when it came to quirk power. That's what the Society of Heroes was all about, after all. He wasn't meant to be a popular hero in his life, and he would never be able to compete with his quirked counterparts. That's just how life was, and he accepted that at the age of 13, which is why he went a more lawfully ambiguous route. Okay, listen, if people wanted a society where only the physically strong could become heroes, then they shouldn't be surprised that people like him went a different route. He was doing what he had to, so he could follow his dream, and if the law hated him for that, then so be it. So realistically, beating them fairly wouldn't cut it, so he opted to make a much more fun route. If he had to use cheap tricks to get ahead and help Shinzo, then he would. It was his only choice. The other students were naive, especially the hero course. They considered themselves the only competition, seeing any other student as some random person with no drive to win. And for the most part, they were correct. But unfortunately for them, Class 1C had two very determined students. They knew nothing about him or Shinzo, and that right there was his only advantage. Keeping them on their feet, having them guess what his quirk was, would make them anxious, worried. Their guards were down around other students. Izuku noticed easily they all thought they were the best, leaving little doubt in their mind that they could take the other classes down easily. It was all Izuku needed to help Shinzo pull ahead. Yeah, this was going to be fun. Izuku snaps out of his racing thoughts as he noticed a familiar blonde make his way up on the platform where Midnight was standing. He must be giving the opening speech, he supposed. Kachan took a very deep breath before looking around the arena. A calm yet determined look plastered on his face. I just wanna say, I'm going to win, the blonde stated, nothing more and nothing less. Izuku couldn't even be surprised, but he did notice something from the simple sentence. Though past Kachan would have served it as a joke and laughed, this Kachan didn't do that. He was completely blank-faced, which led Izuku to believe one thing. He meant it. This was him pushing himself to win. A warning to every other competitor. He would probably be their biggest threat, but luckily for him, he had been watching the blonde since they were kids. He knew him like the back of his hand in some ways. His class, along with a few others, booed at his speech, if you could even call it that. The reaction was also unsurprising. He knew how many other classes already hated 1A. Kachan got off the stage, so much as not giving a glance to anybody else as a dark-haired boy with engine legs scolded him for his behavior. Besides him, Izuku could feel the agitated scoff Shinzo released, but he didn't do anything more than that, unwilling to participate in the useless protests. Lovely speech, Bakugo. Now let's get on with the first event! President Mike shouted in an attempt to silence the boos coming from the stands and the students. All right then, let's spin the wheel to see which event will be picked. Midnight sang, an excited expression covering the expanse of her face. Izuku held his breath as the wall spun, his right foot tapping anxiously as he waited for the spinner to come to a halt. There were several different events that could be chosen, each needing its own strategy and planning. Izuku tuned out Midnight's enthusiastic comments about the choices as he prayed for the first event to be good. Izuku, of course, could strategize for any scenario he was given, but if there was a higher power out there, then please let it be. It looks like our first event will be an obstacle race. How exciting! Izuku almost fell to his knees out of relief at the announcement of the game selected. This was his personal favorite, and it was the game with the easiest strategy. Maybe it was just luck, or perhaps it was the universe apologizing for all the shit they put in his life, but it ultimately didn't matter. The game he needed was chosen, and now the games were really going to begin. Shinzo felt Izuku's sigh of relief since he was still leaning against the green boy. Is that good? He whispered. Extremely good! Izuku responded, a smile growing on his face. It's the game I was hoping for! Before Shinzo could ask another question, Midnight's voice boomed again. The rules are quite simple. You'll participate in a 4-kilometer race filled with different obstacles. You're allowed to go all out with your quirks, so put on a show for us. The first 42 contestants will move on to the next round. Midnight explained, her whip flying as her hands moved as she spoke. As the students made their way towards the gate for the first event, Shinzo tapped Izuku on the shoulder. So, what's the plan, Midoriya? The boy asked. The plan is quite simple, Shinzo, Izuku said. All we really have to do is stay in the median. The median? The middle of the group, basically. We don't want to do really well in the first event, as that will show off our abilities, painting us as targets. But if we fall too far behind, we won't make the cut and lose our chance. So staying in the middle of the pack will give us the best advantage moving forward, Izuku classified to his confused friend. Oh, I get it. That makes sense, Shinzo said, nodding in agreement. Besides, Izuku chuckled, it lets me study their quirks, strengths, and weaknesses. I can understand their strategy and how to defeat them. A full Cheshire grin grew across his face. He truly was in his element, even if he wasn't really trying to win. Scary, Shinzo thought as he noticed the feral grin. At least he's on my side. It was 5 minutes after the duo arrived near the large arch that the race began. The loud horns signaling the start of the race blasted through the arena, and everyone was off in the sprint. He and Shinzo chose a spot near the middle of the pack, giving Izuku the highest advantage to observe and analyze. It looks like he didn't study all those criminal quirks for nothing, since now he could analyze techniques on the fly. As they were running through the doors, the brightness of the outside peered back at them. Running in the dark tunnels messed with his vision for a bit, but his eyes adjusted quickly to the sudden brightness again. He felt cold air start to circulate in the closed space. Ice quirk, he thought. Out of pure instinct, Izuku grabbed Shinzo by the waist and hoisted him in the air. He jumped right after, narrowly avoiding an ice path that would have been hell to escape from. Unfortunately for his classmates, they would have to experience that hell. The whole incident happened within 2 seconds, and Izuku jumped through a hole in the ice, finally revealing the sun he missed so dearly. He placed a still completely stunned Shinzo down on the ground, observing the damage as he did. Whoever's quirk did that was powerful. He's lucky he even dodged it in the first place. At least half the students were frozen in the ice prison, with the ones surviving almost all from the hero course. The other kids chased after a red and white colored-haired boy, most likely the menace who unleashed hell with no regard for the others. Whoa! Look at Todoroki go! He used his eyes to take out half his opponents! President Mike's voice shrieked through the speakers. It was a fine strategy. One that was familiar observed. He used his quirk to stop most of his peers, but because his classmates knew his power, many of them were able to counter. Wait, was it Eraserhead's voice? What the hell just happened? Shinzo asked as Izuku grabbed his hand and pulled him forward, encouraging him to run. I felt the temperature change in the tunnel, so I dodged accordingly. Obviously, I didn't want you to get stuck, so I yoinked you to go. Hope you don't mind, Izuku called as they started to run again, much to the despair of Shinzo. You surprise me more and more every day, you know that, Midoriya, Shinzo commented, partially laughing. I've been told that, Izuku chuckled back, almost slipping on the ice that covered the previously gravel path. Running on ice took a while to get used to, but once they reached the end of the dreadful long track, their next obstacle awaited them. Holy crap! It's the robot from the entrance exam! Izuku exclaimed, a bit too excited for Shinzo's taste. That's right, listeners! The first obstacle in this course is our very own robot! They're not too dangerous, but they can be annoying to take down, so use your energy wisely. As Shinzo was about to race forward into the massacre of robots that took place before them, Izuku held a hand in front of his chest. Just wait a minute, Izuku said. Not even a minute later, Izuku rushed forward, pulling Shinzo with him. I just wanted to observe the robots and people. Sorry, he yelled towards Shinzo, who had been stuck in a state of confusion since the beginning of the race. What does that have to do with anything? Shinzo asked before he could get an answer. But Izuku pointed towards the fragments of a robot on the floor. We can use these as weapons. Izuku sprinted over to the leftover parts, picking up 2 pieces in the process, as Shinzo followed closely behind. We're in 25th and 26th place right now, by my count, and though I wouldn't mind being lower, we shouldn't fall too far behind. Just smash anything you see with this metal and keep up, got it? Izuku told Shinzo, whose fighting spirit was finally starting to kick in, the competitive glint in his eye replacing his once confused gaze. Fortunately, the two didn't run into many robots. Only a handful were there, here or there, and Izuku loved it. If this was the only objective of the entrance exam, then he definitely could have passed if he tried. The robots weren't very durable and only needed one hit with its own material to fall to the ground, or maybe that was just Izuku's own strength. Regardless, the robots felt like a breeze, and a part of him kicked himself for not attempting the entrance exam like he originally wanted to. As they ran through the track, he noticed a vast array of quirks. A girl with a zero gravity quirk, a dude with a bird head, a bird head, a girl with a creation quirk. Wait, was that a cannon? And even 2 guys with hardening quirks. There were so many, and Izuku's brain was jumbling with the amount of information he was trying to absorb, while still keeping his guard up to fight the pesky robots. Pesky bird. Their quirks were all amazing, and he couldn't wait to observe them during the 1v1s. Class 1A didn't hesitate. He could give them that, as he watched the hero course students rush in front of him, only totally determined to win. He couldn't help but be amazed. They truly were incredible, a feat he would never accomplish himself. Quirks were absolutely remarkable. Keeping their pace at the respective place in the mid-20s, Izuku and Shinzo finally came ahead to the next obstacle. Some sort of line beams connecting to various island platforms. Obstacle number 2! The fall! They're sturdy but extremely thin, so watch your step, or the only race you'll be winning is being the first to see Recovery Girl. Is this even allowed? Shinzo asked, shocked at the pure brutality of the task in front of them. This is the life of someone who doesn't have a physical quirk, Shinzo. Izuku grimaced. How do we get across? Shinzo asked as he scanned the area for any potential route. I think you know the only way, Izuku replied, a frown forming on his face. Shinzo was not going to like it. You mean you want me to walk across this? Shinzo exclaimed, his eyes widening in horror. It's fine, I can't just get someone else to carry me or something. I can... Shinzo, it'll be fine. Just hold my hand and don't look down. Izuku reassured, placing his hands on Shinzo's shoulder. The purple-haired boy took a deep breath as a feral grin spread over his face. Okay, let's do it. But I'm blaming you if we fall to our doom. I won't let that happen, Izuku wouldn't. Never in a million years. Though he wouldn't consider himself an expert, he was all too familiar with running across thin wires and the surface during his time as a vigilante. Hell, that's probably what he did most. His knack for balance felt unnatural at times, but it was something he cherished deeply. Before he could pull Shinzo across the tightrope, he noticed a small group consisting of a pink girl, zero gravity girl, and the pink-haired girl conversing near the edge. The pink-haired girl had a large display of gadgets accompanying her gym uniform, making Izuku intrigued as to what each item did. Hey, gadget girl! Izuku called, his curiosity getting the better of him. All three girls turned to face him, and he couldn't stop the blush that spread his face out of embarrassment. Yeah? The pink-haired girl replied, realizing that Izuku was addressing her. Your stuff looks really cool! I can't wait to see them in action! He complimented. I'm glad you like my babies! Each one is perfectly designed for today's events, see? And with that, the girl was off, flying into the air with her boots babies. So impressive! That's our cue to go. Bye, you two! Izuku said to the other two girls, who were still standing in shock at the pink-haired girl. Without another warning, Izuku dragged Shinzo across the first suspender line. Shinzo learned how to run across them quickly, making Izuku delighted. When they made it to the first platform, Izuku held back the urge to hug him. See? You got it! Just keep your eyes ahead and focus on me, okay? I got it, Midoriya. Shinzo huffed in an attempt to hide his blush from the compliment. Alrighty, folks, it seems like 2 students are on the final stretch of the race. Wait, what's happening over here? Present Mike gasped as his attention shifted from Bakugo and Todoroki to his own students. Izuku and Shinzo running across the wire like they were born to do it. From the looks of it, Midoriya and Shinzo are running across the rope without any extra quirk assistance. This is surely a new sight. We haven't seen anything like this before, have we, Razor? There is a minuscule number of students who would be able to do this flawlessly. Most students use their quirk or opt to crawl instead. Eraserhead commented to the mic. I think it's safe to assume that these two have been practicing. Izuku almost faltered at the sound of Eraserhead's voice. He knew he worked at UA, but knowing Present Mike commenting on the event, those were things he was ill prepared for. He couldn't reveal too much about his skill, or else Eraser was sure to catch on. He caught him, skills only. A pro would know, and if some general studies student knew them, he would look suspicious. Shit, he really needed to hold back! They finally reached the end of the second obstacle with little mistakes. Shinzo slipped up once or twice, resulting in him almost falling into the void with no doubt, Izuku following close behind. He was confident that both of their hearts dropped during that. When they arrived at the final part of the course, his heart was beating uncontrollably. He hadn't had a run like this, other than last night's, in a while, and it felt good to do it again. He counted 27 people ahead of him and Shinzo, and he let out a sigh of relief. 28th and 29th were valid spots to place in, and it's not like he was trying that hard anyway. All they needed to do from here is keep the spot, and victory would be theirs. By the pattern of the dirt, it seems like that's a minefield, Izuku observed. To the right of them, a student flew into the air, a scream trailing behind the movement. Definitely a minefield, Shinzo concluded. And now our final obstacles! We have a minefield! They're not deadly for the students, but they pack one hell of a punch. Step with caution or face the consequences! How do they even create this stuff? Shinzo asked aloud, and with a look of mixed with concern and defeat plastered on his face. Being the best school gives you privileges, I guess. Izuku shrugged. Now how do you suppose we get across? Aren't you the strategist here? You're no fun, Izuku pouted. There's really no need to rush, and oh, there's a knife path now. It looks like the ice dude was desperate, Izuku said in awe as a long trail of ice found its way in front of them. Looks like Todoro. Oh! Looks like Todoroki used his eyes to run across the minefield in attempt to beat Bakugo. I'm sure his ice tray will be a big help for the others behind him. Present Mike cheered. Guess we don't have to worry about a plan now, huh? Shinzo replied. Race yet to the finish line? You're on. The duo sprinted forward down the icy path, slipping and sliding as they went. Izuku was confident in their placings, so he simply just let himself enjoy the thrill of a race. As the finishing line grew nearer and nearer, Izuku passed a few others whose speed was only declining. His legs thumped harshly against the icy path as he continued to sprint, and he revelled in the burning he felt in his lungs and legs. The air was cold, courtesy of that guy's quirk, and it reminded Izuku so much of his rooftop patrols during the fall and winter. He passed the finish line with one last leap, landing on the fresh grass of the stadium. Izuku was pleased to see that he beat Shinzo by a number of people, but they both still managed to make it to the next round. Good job, Shinzo! Izuku congratulated as he made his way towards the boy, who was hunched over, huffing and puffing. Your workouts have really been helping, Shinzo replied, his head lifting to face Izuku. I'm glad. Maybe I can put you on the real one sometime soon. What? And that's the end of our first event. Let's take a look at the results. Midnight cheered. The standings are: in first place, Shodo Todoroki. Second, Katsuki Bakugo. Third, Ibara Shiosaki. Fourth, Juzo Honenuki. Fifth, Tenya Iida. Sixth, Fumikage Tokoyami. Seventh, Hanta Zero. Eighth, Eiichiro Kirishima. Ninth, Tetsu. 10th, Mashiaro Ochiro. 11th, Yosetsu Awase. 12th, Tsuyu Asui. 13th, Meizo Chochi. 14th, Rikido Sato. 15th, Ochako Uraraka. 16th, Momoyao Yorozu. 17th, Minoru Mineta. 18th, Mina Ashido. 19th, Koji Koda. 20th, Kyoka Chiro. 21st, Sen Kaibara. 22nd, Izuku Midoriya. 23rd, Denki Kaminari. 24th, Kochiro Bondo. 25th, Kosei Tsuburaba. 26th, Itsuga Kendo. 27th, Hitoshi Shinzo. 28th, Reiko Yanagi. 29th, Jurota Shishidea. 30th, Shihai Kurohiro. 31st, Yui Kodai. 32nd, Hirui Rin. 33rd, Nirengeki Shoda. 34th, Kinoko Komori. 35th, Togaru Kamakiri. 36th, Nieto Monoma. 37th, Pony Tsunotori. 38th, Toru Hagakure. 39th, Setsuna Tokage. 40th, Manga Fukidashi. 41st, Mei Hatsume. 42nd, Yuga Aoyama. Congratulations to everyone who made it through the first round. But that was only a warm-up. Now's your real time to shine, Midnight explained, her whip continuing to fly in the air. Was that even school appropriate? Now, let's get the second game begin. Whoa, whoa, whoa! What's that? A second chapter already in the same week? Another upload? Let's say I just want to get this over soon because I have a really fun next longer. What is it called? Fanfiction, not from the Boku no Hero fandom, but from the Harry Potter fandom that I'll be reading soon. And as soon as I get back, I also have a Dream SMP one-shot, so be prepared! I want to get as many uploads before my surgery done. See ya!